Yeah. We are holding at the very bottom of Test on the bays, second to last line, where Yeshua ben Levi. One of the things that we kind of ended off with yesterday, there was a pasuk in Mishlei. The pasuk said, "Rodev tzedakah v'chesed," someone who pursues tzedakah and chesed, yimtza chayim tzedakah v'kavod. He will find himself with chayim, with tzedakah, which we said yesterday was an opportunity to do tzedakah, not to be on the receiving end of tzedakah, and kavod. On that note, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Amar, Kol haragil lasos tzedakah, anyone who does tzedakah, zocha. I think Zocha actually is deleted. Kol haraga lasos tzedakah. I think the Bach takes out the word Zocha. Havilo banim, balei chachma, balei osher, balei agados. These are three things that will happen if someone is accustomed to doing tzedakah, and it's all learned from that pasuk in Mishlei. Balei chachma, dichsiv yimatei chaim. That was one of the things in the pasuk in Mishlei. Rashi points out. Yes, please. Actually, tiv gabi chachma kimotzi matzei chaim. So there's some connection between chaim and chachma. Okay, Bali Osher. How do we know that if you give tzedakah, your children will be Bali Osher? It was the pasuk says the tzedakah, and like we translated yesterday, tzedakah means you will be someone who will have an opportunity to continue to do tzedakah. You'll be a Bali Osher. You'll have the means to continue to give tzedakah. Bali Agada. What does it mean that you will be an orator, someone who has the power of speech? Dichsiv v'kavod. Again, that was the third attribute, quality from the pasuk in Mishlei. Tiv hacha v'kavod u'ksivasam. Kavod chachamim yinchalu. Rashi says, what does that mean? Look at Rashi Balei Haggadah, top line. Mitok shehein darshanim, because people are darshanim, umoshtanes alev, they can really persuade people. Akom chavdidosam, people who are good speakers, people who are good orators, they will get kavod. So again, someone who's accustomed to doing tzedakah, his children will have these qualities. Tanya, Hayar Meir Omer, yesh lo lebal hadin, the bal hadin lo shivcha. Rashi says the Baal Hadin over here is talking about a Rasha or an Oved Kochavim. People who have bad intentions, they can make the following argument to you. They can say to you, we're on page Yud, about the fifth line or so. Who, if your God is someone who loves the Aniyim, it's a real philosophical question. Why do we have Aniyim in the first place? And better yet, why do you think you're doing a good thing by giving them tzedakah? If God wants them to be poor, who are you to give them tzedakah? So Amar Lo, or Meir said you can respond to this hypothetical person, and you could say, Kadesha Nitzel Anu Behen Medina Shal Gahanim. Why are you assuming that tzedakah is necessarily? Why are you looking at it from the viewpoint of the poor person? Look at it from the viewpoint of me. I have an opportunity to do a good deed. Forget why the person's an ani or how this impacts the ani. Focus on from the giver's perspective. And Mezusha Ela Shalternas Rufus Harasha as Rabbi Akiva. There was this conversation that once happened with Tortoise Rufus and Rasha the circa the destruction of the second base Hamikdash, and he said to Rabbi Akiva, this exact question: why would God let them be aniyim, and why are you giving them tzedakah? So Amar Lei, this was the response that Rabbi Akiva gave to Tortoise Rufus. So Amar Lei Adarabba, maybe this is exactly what's causing the Chachamim to go to Gehenna, meaning this is a bad thing. This is like a melech basar v'dam. Shekas al abdo. He was very upset with someone in his kingdom, Eved in his kingdom. And he imprisoned him. V'tziva alav, and he commanded no one should feed him, no one should give him to drink. One guy came and he said, I'm not going to listen. When the king hears about this, look, of course the king's going to be furious at this guy. And Vatem Kurin Avadim, and the Jewish people are considered the Avadim of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Nemar Kilivin Eishal Avadim. So again, God made him poor for whatever reason. Who are you? And I'll come and give him tzedakah. So Amar Rabbi Akiva said, I'll play this game. I'll give you another mashal. L'melech basar v'dam shekas al beno, not on Eved, but on his child. And he even imprisoned his own child. But of course, he loves his own child. But still, v'tziva Allah shelo achilu lo lashgoso. Same story, right? No one should feed him. No one should give him to drink. Someone did, in fact, give him food, give him drink. When the king hears about this, obviously he wanted someone to keep his son alive. He would give you a gift, right, for helping out his own son. And we are considered children to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Turnus Rufus hears this, and he responds, says, Amar lo atem kruim banim, Ukruin Avadim. The Jewish people are called Banim and they're called Avadim. How do you make sense of this? So it must be, this is Turnus Rufus talking. Bisman Shatim Osir Zono Shalmako Matem Kurin Badim. When you guys are acting properly.
Who is Rufus?
Turnus Rufus? I don't know.
Was he a king?
I don't think he was a king. I think he was like someone in the Roman something. I don't know. He was some sort of nobleman.
Who will walk me to school? Rufus King.
Oh, all right. I don't know.
What?
But I think these are all stories that were brought down.
I thought he was maybe a king.
Yeah, I don't believe he was a king. But he was someone who had a relationship with Rabbi Akiva, and I think they go back and forth in a number of places. Either way. So how do we understand this? Sometimes you're avadim, and sometimes you're children. Bisman atem osim mersono shel makom atem kurin banim. Bisman she'ein atem osim mersono shel makom atem kurin avadim. The achshav, and right now, surka, the destruction of the second base of Mikdash, ein atem osim mersono shel makom, and therefore you guys are avadim, and therefore you should not be giving tzedakah. Amar lo, Rabbi Akiva said back. This is that pasuk from Yeshaya that we had a number of times yesterday. Arehu omer halo paros l'rav lachmecha ve'aniyim merudin tavi bayis. You should break bread with the aniyim, and the aniyim that are wailing will come to your house. And we saw a number of times yesterday in the daf that the second half of the pasuk isn't referring to aniyim proper. The drasha is that this is the foreign governments that are coming to take your money away. This is when the Jewish people are not being governed by a Jewish government, by a non-Jewish government. So emasai aniyim merudim. When is it that the aniyim merudim tavi bias? When is it that we're kind of giving our money away to the foreign governments? Right now, when we're controlled by the Roman governments, and still, this was Rabbi Akiva's way of saying that even when we are, kruin avadim, even when we are not in control, still God wants us to be giving tzedakah. Thank you very much. Yeah, a little bit of cream. Thank you. Ooh, not hazelnut. Yeah, just milk. Darash Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Shalom. Kishem shemizonosav shal adam ketzuvim lo Rosh Hashanah. Just like we know this, that all of the income that someone makes is set from Rosh Hashanah. Kach chesronosav shal adam ketzuvim lo Rosh Hashanah. The opposite end of the P&L, the expense side, is also all set on Rosh Hashanah. Meaning, whatever the expenses you're going to have is set on Rosh Hashanah, and it's up to you to determine. Thank you. It's up to you to determine, is this money going to go towards good causes, towards tzedakah, or is it going to go to pay the government? Is it going to go towards taxes? So zacha, hello, paros l'ray blachmech. If you're zocha, your money goes to charity. Lo zacha, vani and rudin tavi bayis. Lo zacha, your money is going to go to pay taxes and fees and all sorts of other stuff. Yihad b'nei achdei Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had a bunch of nephews. He once saw in a dream that over the course of the year they're going to have to spend 700 dinarim, which sounds like a lot of money. So a sinu, he basically said, get a plot. He said, I will cause them to give tzedakah, and they'll give all the 700 dinarim that they're going to have to spend anyway. Might as well give it to tzedakah. So he signed up to be an ambassador at every local cause match, and shakal minayu l'tzedakah. And he basically said, guys, keep giving. But by the end of the year, posh gabayu, shiv sir dinri. So they spent 683 of these dinarim on tzedakah, and they had 17 left that they hadn't spent. And Kimatam Al Yom Kippuri, when it came Erev Yom Kippur of the following year, the Mefarshim speak out like they kind of wonder what is Erev Yom Kippur, but I guess that's like the Yom Adin is Rosh Hashanah, and things are sealed in Yom Kippur or whatever it is. Either way, when it comes to Yom Kippur, Shadar, the Beit Kesar comes the Naktinu, and he takes the 17 as some sort of fine. And these nephews are very concerned. He only took 17. Probably going to come later and take even more, right? But Amalu Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai, lo sit chalun, because the shifts are dinri gabaychu sheklinu minat. The 17 that you left, that's what was taken. He's only going to take the 17. So Amri leim manayadus. How do you know he's only going to take the 17? Amarlu chelma chazai. I saw this dream, and you were going to spend 700. I got you to spend 683 on good causes. There's only 17 left, and that's why they're going to take the 17. So Amar leis. Now the nephew said back to him, you knew all this. Why don't you just tell us? And we would have given the whole 700 to a good cause. Why did you even let us waste the 17? It was probably preferable that you guys don't know and you're giving the tzedakah lishma than to know that the money's being spent anyway. Might as well give it to the chesed fund, whatever it is. Rav Papa, fascinating. I mean, all these parts are fascinating, but Rav Papa Havasalik Vidarga. Rav Papa was descending on a ladder, and Ishtimit Kare and Bailamepal. He slipped and he was literally about to fall. And it sounds like he was literally going to fall. He had like a near-death experience. He felt that had he fallen, he would have died. And Amar Hashta came Papa? Was he? I don't know. And that might have been Papa Baraba or something. I don't remember, but I don't know if that was Papa. Either way, he said, had I died, had I fallen off this ladder and had I died, it would have been like I got skila, and now I have to wonder, like a real cheshbon nefesh. What did I do that I would have been like the Mechalei Shabbos and the Oved Kochav? Like, why would I have deserved skila? So Amalei Rechia Bar Rav, he did it, right? He did it, but that's not what he's thinking right now. Yeah, imagine. So imagine trying to respond to this. Well, let me tell you what I think you did, right? So Amar, wait. Into. So Amarle Rav Chia Barav Medifsila Rav Papa Shema Ani Ali Yadcha Veloper Sasso. Maybe it's possible that an Ani came to you, didn't give. This, of course, the Mepharshim speak out. From yesterday's daf, if you recall, we had a halacha that if someone has a green card and they're going around the community, you don't necessarily have to give them from the Gabbai Tzedakah. And a story was brought down with Rav Papa where a guy came around and Rav Papa didn't want to give him at first. So then maybe that's what happened. Maybe an Ani came and didn't want to give him. Tanya, we have a price. Rabbi Shubin Karcha Omer, Kol Mailim Einav bin Tzedakah. If you look away from someone that needs tzedakah, Ki'ilu Oved Avodas Kochav. How do I know? Ksivach leishamar lecha penia davar im levavcha bilial. Uksiv hasam yatsu anashim b'nei bilial. So the first pasuk is in reference to the halacha that when it comes close to Shemitah, you still shouldn't not lend the poor. You don't want to. You shouldn't say I don't want to lend because Shemitah is right around the corner. I don't want to. The whole loan is going to be. Shemitah is going to cancel the loan. You shouldn't do that. But the pasuk uses the word bilial. Also, in the case of the Aaron Dachas, the pasuk uses the word bilial. Malahalan avodos kochavim afkan avodos kochavim. So the point is, maybe that's what would have caused you to potentially be chayav skila because you didn't give tzedakah. Tanya, Amar Rav Elazar Rabbi Yossi, called tzedakah v'chesed sh'Yisrael osim b'olam hazeh. Shalom gadol, it causes shalom gadol. It also causes praklitin gedolin ben Yisrael. Avi and Shabash Mayim. It also causes malachim to be our defenders to Avi and Shabash Mayim. Shnamar Ko Amar Hashem is the pasuk in Yirmiyah. Ko Amar Hashem. Al tavo beis mirzach. You don't have to go to a house of mourning. Val telet lisbo. You don't have to go again some sort of house of mourning. Val panud lam yasaf yeshlomi meisa hamazeh chesed v'yasarachim. Why? Because you've done the chesed and the rachim. Chesed means chazadim. Rachim and tzedakah. And the bottom line is, bad things won't happen if we are doing the chesed and we're doing the tzedakah. Tanya, but Yehuda Omer, gedola tzedakah shemikareves es geula. Gedola is great because it hastens the geula. Hastens the right word, right? That makes it comes quickly. The geula. Shnemar ko amar Hashem shamru mishpat vasu tzedakah krova yishuasi lavo v'titkasi ligalos. Even the pasuk. The more tzedakah that we do, Mashiach will come. Hu haya omer, the real Chad Gadya. So Rabbi Yehuda would say, Asara dvarim kashim nivru gulam. There were 10 things that were kashim that were created in the world. Har kasha, a mountain is very hard. Barzal mechashel, but iron can cut through a mountain. Barzal kasha, barzal is very hard. Or mepapo, but fire can melt barzal. Or kasha, or is very hard. Mayim mechaben also, the water can take out the fire. Mayim kashim, avim soflim, but clouds can come and soak up the water. Avim kashim, avim are very hard. Clouds are very hard. But ruach mevizartan, but the wind can scatter the clouds. Ruach kasha, certainly you can have very strong winds. Gush soflo, but you can walk outside. You're not swayed by the wind. Guf kasha, a guf is very difficult. Pachad shovro, but fear can, cripple a person. Pachad kasha, pachad. Fear is very strong, but yaim, if you go, very relatable, right? You can have some liquid courage, right? All you need is a drink, and all of a sudden the pachad goes away. Yain kasha, alcohol can certainly be very difficult, but shtina mafachto, but a good sleep can take care of a hangover, right? Misa kasha mikulam, but misa comes, and misa is the worst of them all. But staka matalas mina misa, but staka can save you from misa dechsiv, staka tatzil mimavas. We'll see there's twice in Mishlei, a parak apart, where this phrase is.
Tzedakah is a broad thing, though.
Tzedakah is a very broad thing.
Not necessarily money, could be other things, right?
Absolutely, of course.
Sweat equity.
There you go. Darash Rabdos Daib Rabbi Yanai. Bo or a shelo midas hakadosh baruch hu midas basar v'dam. Midas basar v'dam. When it comes to a regular king, other maybe Doron Gadol Lamelech, you bring a big gift to the White House. Something Kablin also, And Safek Himanu Safek Emek Kabbalah. You don't even know if the king's advisors are even going to like take this gift. The aim teams alone are Kabbalah, even if they do take it. Safek Rope and MLF, Safek Enter Rope and MLF. You don't even know if you're going to get a personal meeting with the king. You give tzedakah, which, as we'll see, the Gemara is clearly showing that your tzedakah is a gift to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You give a tzedakah, you give a gift, you have an audience with the king. That's what it says. You give charity, and you will see or I will see your face. And your awakening kind of satiates Timuna Secha. Again, we'll see what the back half of that pasuk means. Rabbi Elazar Yayiv Prutula Ani, Bahadar Matzir. Rabbi Elazar, because of this, he would, or on this note, he would give tzedakah, and then he would daven. Right? He would give the gift to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he figured that was a good time to daven once I've given the gift, which is ironic because we do the exact opposite. We daven, and then we give tzedakah. Right? Either way. Amar, Ktiv, Ani B'tzedek Echza Panecha, right? Ani B'tzedek, and then Echza Panecha. So what was the back half of this pasuk? What does it mean? Esba B'hakes Munasecha, I am like satiated by the awakening. So Amar Rav Nachman Yitzchak Elu Tamidei Chachamim Shebenazidin Sheina Meinei Ba'olam Hazeh. These are the Tamidei Chachamim who kind of burn the midnight oil, right? They keep themselves up at night to learn Torah. Kadosh Baruch Hu Masbiyam Mizem Hashchina La'olam Haba. Hashem satiates, keeps them tovea from the Ziv Hashchina La'olam Haba. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. My dichtiv Mal v'Hashem chonein dal. That a person who's chonein dal, a person who gives charity to the poor, Mal v'Hashem. He's lending money to Hashem. Right? Now, Omali Mikra Kasav, if the pasuk didn't say this itself, Yeshua Omer. You can never say something like this. Kav Yochel, Aved, Eved, Lo v'Lishma. But we know there's a concept, it's a pasuk in Mishlei, that the lender is on some level, he's kind of like an Eved to the lender. Borrower is a slave to the lender. So here, the pasuk is basically saying that if you give tzedakah, you are lending money to Hashem. It's almost like Hashem is a slave towards you. So that's why Rav Yochanan said that. If not for the pasuk, we can never say such a thing on our own. Amar Rav Bar Abba. Rav Yochanan, Ksiv, Lo Yoel Hon, Biom Evra, meaning all of the wealth isn't going to help you Biom Evra on the day that you die, the day that you pass. Utstaka Tatil Mimavis. This is Mishlei Perak Yidalef. Ksiv, we also have another pasuk, Mishlei Perak. One Perak earlier, Perak Yud. Lo Yo Ilu Otros Rasha. All the Otros Rasha aren't going to help you, all the treasures or whatever it is. Utstaka Tatil Mimavis. State Stakas Halalu Lama. Right? Why do I need two of these psukim that are saying the same thing? So one of them is saying that tzedakah is going to help you from an unnatural death. You're not going to die young. And one says even when you die at the proper time, it's going to save you from Medina Shal Gehenim. Which one of these is saving you from Gehenim? It's the one that talks about Evra, which we translated as the day of your passing, but there's also a reference to Gehenim. Yom Evra Yom Ha'u, pasuk in Spania. Evra is a reference to Gehenim, and therefore that pasuk is the one that says that tzedakah saves you from Gehenim. But the other pasuk says that tzedakah saves you from a misa mishunos. Like Mara says, what is the type of tzedakah that you have to do to be saved from a misa mishuna? Mara says, what's the highest form of tzedakah? Nosna be'eni yodea lemi nosna. If you give and you don't even know who you're giving to, note la, be'eni yodea mimi note la. And the person on the receiving end is receiving, he doesn't know who he's receiving from. That's the highest form of tzedakah. Nosna be'eni yodea lemi nosna lafukim edemar ukla. Note la be'eni yodea mimi note la lafukim midrab abba. And Rashi says, the references to Gemara's Kesubis, that Mar Ukva was someone, these are tremendous Balei Tzedakah. Mar Ukva would go in the middle of the night when no one knew what he was doing, and he would leave money by various anim. But the point is, even though it was a tremendous Balei Tzedakah, he knew who he was giving to, right? And who was the other one? Sorry, Reb Abba. Reb Abba would put something on his back. He would walk through the town, eyes were closed, whatever it was. People would come up behind him and take what they needed, but they knew who was giving them, but he didn't know who he was giving. But the absolute highest form of tzedakah is where you don't know who you're giving and they don't know who they're taking from. How is it even possible? What you do is you give the money to the ark, you give the money to the chassid, whatever it is. You don't know, no one knows who it's getting from. You don't know who you're giving to. That's the proper way to do it. The Gemara says, is that really the best way to give tzedakah? Is to give to the arniki of tzedakah? Meisvei ma yase adam v'yuli banim v'yulo banim zacharim. What should you do to ensure that you'll have banim zacharim? Rabbi Eliezer Omer Yefazer Ma'osav Laniyim. You give charity. Rabbi Yeshua Omer Rabbi Yeshua Omer Yismach Ishto lid bar mitzvah. So prior to Tashmish, you should be Yismach Ishto. And Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer Lo Yitin Adam Prukul Arnik Ishol Tzedakah. You shouldn't give to the Arnik Ishol Tzedakah. Obviously, it's a good thing, but it sounds like it's not the best way to give tzedakah. Don't give to the Arnik Ishol Tzedakah, presumably because people aren't necessarily always so trustworthy. LMK Mamun Alek Rav Chanana ben Tradion. Should have finished that line. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says the only time you should ever give to the Arnik Ishol Tzedakah is if the person who's the Munah Allah, the Gizber of the tzedakah is Rav Chanana ben Tradion. But most of us don't have someone like Rav Chanana ben Tradion, so therefore that's not necessarily the best way to give tzedakah. Mar gives the obvious answer. Ikam Rinon De'amani Alak Rav Chanana ben Tradion. You're right. The only time that is the absolute best way to give tzedakah is when you have a person like Rav Chanana ben Tradion who is in charge of the tzedakah. Amar Rav Avo, Amar Moshe, V'Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Moshe said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rebbeinu Shalom, Bameh Tarum Keren Yisrael. How are we exalted, the Keren Yisrael? So Amar Lo B'Ki Tisa. He said B'Ki Tisa. I'll be honest, I did not understand this Rashi, but our scroll quotes Amar Shah, who says Kisisa is literally like Parshas Kisisa. In the beginning of Parshas Kisisa is the Parsha of Machzah Shekel, which is a reference to tzedakah, meaning how are the Jewish people exalted through the giving of tzedakah, which is by reference of the Machzah Shekel, and that's what we mean here by Kisisa. But if you look at Rashi, I at least wasn't really able to appreciate what Rashi was saying. V'amar Rav Avo, Shalu es Shlomo ben David. We asked Shlomo Amalek, Ad heichan kocha shel tzedakah. How strong is the koach of tzedakah? And Amar lehen tu ruma perish David Abba. Go see what my father said in his Tehillim. It says Pizar nasan le'evyonim tzidkasa omeres la'ad. It's like everlasting, right? Karno tarim b'kav. So that's how good tzedakah is. It literally is tzidkasa omeres la'ad. Rabbi Abba Amar mehacha. This is how good tzedakah is. Hu miromei yishkon. He lives in the heights, Mitzido Slaim Miskabo, his fortress in the mountain is where he lives, whatever. Lachmo Nasan, because he gave Lechem Meimav Nemanim, gave water. So how does he darshan this pasuk? Matam, the Roman Mishkon. What is the reason that he's living up high? Mitzido Slaim Miskabo, that his dwelling place is up in the mountains, in the fortresses. It's Mishum, the Lachmo Nasan, Umeimav Ne'eman. Okay. Amar Avavo, Shalu Shlomo. This next Gemara is probably the most famous of all the Gemaras that we've done in the past few days. Shalu Shlomo, Ezu ben Olam Haba. Who is the ben Olam Haba? Amar lehem kol shekeneged zekainav kavod. It's any person who the reason why he has kavod in this world is not because of his materialism, it's not because of his wealth, it's because he's a zakein, it's because he's a chacham, whatever it is. He Rav Yosef, Rav Yeshua, Kalish. Rav Yosef, the son of Rav Yeshua, he got sick in Gedi. He had a coma, went to the other side. Amarle, when he woke up, his father, Yeshua, said, "My chazis, what did you see over there?" Amarle, Olam hapoch reisi. I saw a world that was completely upside down. El yonim lamata. The people who in this world have all the kavod, right, all the stature, they were lamata. V'tachtonim lamala, and the tachtonim were lamalas. Amarle, Rabbi Yeshua says back to his son, Olam bar reisi. You saw that's clarity. You saw that's what the world's supposed to look like. So va'anan. What about us, the chachamim? Heichan chazasina. What do we look like? So Amarle ki heichi. The chashminan hacha, the same way we have our chashivas over here, we also have our chashivas over there. Bishamati shayu omer. What were they saying on the other side? Ashrei misha balakan. Praiseworthy is the person that comes to the other side. V'talmudo biyado. Someone who spent his time in Olam Hazeh learning, and he can bring his learning over there. Bishamati shayu omrim haruge malchus. People who are haruge malchus, people who died al Kiddush Hashem. Fortunately, we have too many of those today. Ein kol bria yechola lama b'mchitzason. They're in such a special place on the other side. Literally, no one else can even be in their enclosure. So, who are we talking about? Who's this Haruge Malchus? If it's Rabbi Akiva, meaning literally the Asara Haruge Malchus. These were all some of the biggest Tanaim, right, that we know of. So, Mishum Haruge Malchus Vesulo, they only have that level of wherever they are because they were Haruge Malchus. She is B'lavachinami. Even if they weren't Haruge Malchus, Rabbi Akiva was clearly going to have a really special place in Olam Haba. Ella Haruge Lud. It must be referring to the Haruge Lud. Rashi reminds us of the story in Tainus. These are two brothers. Their names were Lulinus and Pappus. This was the time when the Romans were in control, and there was a certain blood libel. A very important young woman was murdered. She was the daughter of someone important, and they blamed the Jews, and they basically said, if the person doesn't step forward, we're going to wipe out the entire community. We're going to force everyone to convert. And these two brothers, of course, they didn't kill her, but they took it upon themselves. They said, listen, better that the two of us should be murdered than the rest of the town. these two brothers. This is what's known as the Haruge Lud, and these are the Haruge Malchus that they have a special place in Olam Haba. Tanya, Amar Len Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. This story will literally take us to the end of the Amud. So Amar Len Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai le Talmida. Bini, referred to Talmidim as Bini. Ma'usha Amar HaKasav. How do we make sense of this pasuk? There's a pasuk in Mishlei. Tzedakah teromim Gai. Tzedakah elevates Gai, the nation. V'chesed le'ubim chatas. And chesed for the nations is a chatas. So on the one hand, what's the difference between Gai and le'umim? Why is it in the singular? And then umim, like the plural nations, and also just the back half of the pasuk. Why is chesed for the nations chatas? How do you even understand this? Shnan Rabbi Eliezer ba'amar tzedakah teromim Gai. The first half of the pasuk refers to the singular nation, Elu Yisrael. This is the Jewish nation. The Mik'amcha Yisrael Gai echad ba'aretz. So the implication is that the umim is umos olam. That's why it's plural. The chesed le'umim chatas. Why is tzedakah for the Gayim, meaning the non-Jews? Why is it a chatas? Called tzedakah v'chesed she'umos ovdei kochavim osin chait. It's a sin. Hulahen she'enam osin elo iskadel, because they are only doing this so they can lengthen their own lives. Moshe Namar. These are psukim in Ezra. This is Daryavish talking, one of the kings. Di lahon mehakarvin nichochin le'alaka shemaya umatzin lechayim alka. Yeah, you forget that there are like places in Nach. You don't forget. I never knew this in the first place. But there are places in Nach that like are Aramaic. But either way, this is Aramaic and psukim in Ezra, I believe. Yes. Uvenohi de Avid Hachi. Uvenohi, sorry. So the reason why they're giving this tzedakah is Daryavish saying so that my life and my children's lives should be extended. So they're doing it for the wrong reasons. But the Gemara says, Uda Avid Hachi lav tzedakah gemurhi. Just because someone does it for the wrong reasons, that's not tzedakah gemurah v'atanya. Omer sela zel it's tzedakah b'shvil sheyichyu banai. If I give tzedakah so that my child who lo aleinu, should get a refuah, whatever it is, or I'm giving it so that I get star. What's the problem, right? Gemara says, "Lo kasha kam Yisrael kam b'ovekochavim." It's one thing when a Jew does it, and something when ovekochavim does it. The way Rashi explains is that even if a Jew says, "I only want to do this so my son should get a refuah," even if his son doesn't get the refuah, he still doesn't have charata that he gave the tzedakah. But a guy who says, I'm only giving tzedakah for X reason. If X reason doesn't happen, he now has charata that he even gave the tzedakah in the first place, and that's the difference. Now, Rabbi Yeshua give a very similar answer. Amar tzedakah teromim Gai elu Yisrael. So again, the first half of the pasuk that refers to Gai in the singular, that's the Jewish nation. Yisrael Gai echad chesed leumim chatos. How do we understand why is chesed for the non-Jews of chatos? Called tzedakah v'chesed shelumos over the kochavim mosin chait hulahen. Shein osin ela kadesha timashech malchusim. So it wasn't that their lives should be lengthened, but that their malchus should be lengthened. Nemar lehen malka malki yishafer alecha v'chatecha b'tzaka prok v'avesich b'michan anan ein tehavi orcha l'shlichos. So I think this is in Daniel. Made that up completely. This is in Daniel. It is in Daniel.
We're gonna go with it.
Yeah, this is in Daniel, and I guess whoever the relevant king at the time is praying for a longer malchus. Another answer, but Amar tzedakah teromim Gai elu Yisrael. Why is the chesed of the umim chatas called tzedakah b'chesed she'akum osin chetu lehen she'ein osin elis yair bo? Because they're only giving tzedakah as for gaiva purposes. And Mechol Hamis Yair Nopal Beganim, and anyone who's Bal Gaiva goes to Ganim Shenemar Zaid Zad Yair late Shmo Osa Evras Zadon. Again, this word Evras, which we saw earlier in the Daf, in the pasuk in Spania is referencing Ganim. Ain Evra Ela Ganim Shenemar. This pasuk in Spania Yom Evra Hayom Hahu. Now it's fascinating. Rabbi Gamliel, when he gave his answer, everyone else backed it up with a pasuk. He didn't really back it up with the pasuk. He said it's bad because it's Bal Gaiva, and then he brought a pasuk to prove that Bal Gaiva gets Gehenna. But he didn't actually bring a proof that Goyim are doing something for Gaiva purposes. So Amar Rabbi Gamliel, because he didn't bring that scriptural source, he said, "Adayin anu tzrichen lem yodai." I need my Modian colleague. So Rabbi Lazar Hamyudai, Omer Rabbi Lazar Hamyudai said, "Tzedakah teromim Gai." The first half of the pasuk, Elu Yisrael. Yisrael Gai echad ba'aretz. It's called tzedakah v'chesed she'akum osin chedu lehen. Why? She'ein osin ela l'charek otanu bo. He says, unlike everybody else, they're not even doing it for unaltruistic reasons. They're doing it to put us down. Shenemar v'yave v'yas Hashem kasher diber ki chatasam l'Hashem v'loshmatam v'chol. They're trying to get tzedakah and say, oh man, the Jews, they're not listening to you. They're not doing anything good. Look at us. I mean, we're the ones giving charity, right? But they don't even care for like the star. They just want to put the Jews down. Okay. Naner of Nechuni ben Akana, this is going to be the second to last of the answers. But Amar, he said, we were reading the pasuk totally wrong. What did the pasuk say? The pasuk said, Tzedakah terumim gai. Tzedakah will exalt the nation. The chesed umim chatas, and chesed for the umim is the chatas. And that's why we had all these questions. He said, just put the comma in a different place. He said, Tzedakah terumim gai v'chesed. Tzedakah and chesed is referring to the Jewish people, the Yisrael. Umim chatas, and the umim just have a chatas. So Amar lahen, Yochanan ben Zakkai letalmidav nirin divrei Nechuni ben Akana midivrai umidivreichem. I actually like his shot better than my shot and everyone else's shot. Levisha who knows ain't stuck of a chesed liYisrael ulakam chatas. He's putting the tzedakah and the chesed for the Jewish people. The Gemara makes an observation. Miklal dunami Amar. Yochanan ben Zakkai said I like his shot better than my shot and everyone else's. Well, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai never gave a shot. So the Gemara says it sounds like Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had a shot. What's the shot of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai? Tanya Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He said that the same way a carbon chatas, a copper, he said, don't look at chatas like a sin, look at chatas like a sin offering. The same way a chatas, a carbon chatas, it brings kapara for us. So to tzedakah brings kapara for the non-Jewish people. One more Gemara, it's going to take 30 seconds. If it's a story, Ifra Hurmuz, he made this for Malka. This woman, Ifra Hurmuz, we actually had a few blot ago, she must have been a very wealthy woman. She was the mother of Malka. Shadre Arba Mea Dinre. She sent 400 dinarim, the commander of Ami. I don't know. From the story, it's clear that she wasn't. She gave money to Rav Ami to give tzedakah, but below kablinu. He didn't want to accept it. He didn't want to accept money from a non-Jew. So she made the Rava. She gave it to Rava. Rava was happy to accept it. Shama Rebbe Ami. Rav Ami heard that Rava took the money. But he was all annoyed. Amar less lay the yavesh katsira tishavarna nashin baos mi'irososa. The pasuk basically says that moisture is very good for these trees. When trees no longer have the moisture, they wither away. Same thing with the non-Jews. The more tzedakah that they give, the more whatever they have, the more goodies that they do, that gives them strength. If we need to sap the strength, we need to take away all of their sluyos. So why are you accepting the money for tzedakah? We should not be accepting her money for tzedakah. But Rabba Mishum Shalom Malchus. Rabba did it Mishum Shalom Malchus. So Rabbi Nami Mishum Shalom Malchus. Why did Rabbi do it for Shalom Malchus? He said, listen, even if you want to accept it for Shalom Malchus, you don't have to give it to the Jews. You can give it to the non-Jews. Don't let it be for tzedakah. Let it be for something else. Rabbi Nami, the Aniye over the Kachavim Rabba, in fact, did give it to the non-Jews. So if that's the case, Rabbi Ami the Ikbid, why was he all upset? It's who delo Saimu Kameh. He just didn't hear that part of the story. He only heard that Rabba took the money and he assumed that he gave it for tzedakah. He didn't hear that Rabba took the money and gave it to non-Jews. Have a wonderful Shabbos.